So you've posted something online that we believe is spreading racial hatred.
Twitter, Facebook, what?
I can't explain too much.
In the United Kingdom in 2025, tensions over speech, dissent, and state authority are intensifying. This video explores how governments, past and present, are using legal, administrative, and regulatory means to constrain free speech, and asks, when does regulation become suppression?
Well, as you've probably already surmised, this is not our typical video, so if you want to skip my report on the free speech protest march in London last Saturday, just skip this and I'll see you on the next video.
To understand a crackdown, we first need to understand how free speech is legally framed in the UK and where the limits already lie. Under the Human Rights Act in 1998, Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights is incorporated into UK law, guaranteeing freedom of expression. But that right is not absolute. The state may impose restrictions if they are prescribed by law, pursue a legitimate aim, such as national security, public safety, or protecting reputation, and are necessary in a democratic society. Overlaying that are several statutes regulating speech, especially online or in public. The Communications Act of 2003 and the Malicious Communications Act of 1988 criminalize messages deemed, quote, grossly offensive, threats, or harassment. The Public Order Act of 1986 prohibits threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior likely to cause harassment, alarm, or distress. The Terrorism Act of 2006 restricts dissemination of material that could encourage terrorism. More recently, the Public Order Act of 2023 gives police additional powers to restrict protests and issue serious disruption prevention orders. And the Online Safety Act of 2023 places new obligations on online platforms to police user content, including for borderline but legal speech. These laws form the architecture within which enforcement occurs. The question is, how are they being used? Over the past year, critics say the UK has moved from theory to practice, and that the enforcement is increasingly assertive, selective, and chilling. Let's look at some concrete examples. In multiple media reports, it's claimed that 30 arrests per day are being made over social media posts, cartoons, or memes deemed offensive or in breach of communication laws. One arrest showed a man being detained overnight for a meme criticizing Hamas. Other cases include satirists, private individuals, and minor retweets being treated as criminal matters. The Public Order Act of 2023 broadens police powers to limit protests by time, route, and imposes serious disruption prevention orders. After nearly 500 arrests at a pro-Palestinian vigil, ministers announced authorities would consider the, quote, cumulative impact, end quote, of repeated protests when restricting future demonstrations. Also reported, footage from a Leeds protest removed for UK viewers, allegedly under Online Safety Act regimes. A video of police restraining a protester became inaccessible in the UK, raising concerns about the suppression of documentation itself. When the Online Safety Act came into force, multiple users reported content being taken down preemptively, even content that was not clearly illegal. One video titled, "Videos Censored as Online Safety Act Comes into Force," documents how controversial but lawful reportage was flagged or removed. Entire forums and journalistic content reportedly experienced disruption due to overbroad definitions of harmful content. There are reports of protest footage being blocked in compliance with platform policies. Notable cases amplify the chilling effect. The Nottinghamshire Council banned local newspaper reporters from key meetings, a ban now being challenged in court under Article 10 arguments. Comedy writer Graham Linehan was arrested for social media posts criticizing transgender activism. Critics say the move signals a new threshold for permissible speech.
Did it make you feel like a criminal?
Yes, I've never been arrested in my life. I live a very quiet life. And here's the thing. Ultimately, it comes down to this. Pardon me. Even though I never found out what it was that I said exactly, or what it was about, I even tried to find out roughly what it was about, and he couldn't tell me. The point is this: he said it wasn't against the law. This was not. He wasn't going to arrest me.
In Slough, police visited a cancer patient's home and asked her to apologize for a Facebook post. The Free Speech Union called it bullying, and the case was later dropped. These examples highlight how law meets practice, but how do the defenders and critics frame these shifts? Well, let's break it down. The government justifies many restrictions by reference to either protecting vulnerable individuals from harassment, hate speech, or online harm, preventing public disorder or disruption, especially protests, regulating a fast-changing digital space left poorly covered by older law. Supporters argue that free expression must be balanced against other rights. Reasonable constraints are part of a mature liberal democracy. They also point to steps in universities. In 2025, rules now legally oblige English universities to, quote, actively promote, end quote, free speech, ostensibly reinforcing its protection. Critics raise several core objections: vagueness and discretion. Many of these key terms, harm, serious disruption, or insulting, are subjective, highly subjective. That gives authorities broad leeway, broader leeway than any reasonable person would want to give the federal government. There's also a chilling effect. Even lawful controversial speech may be self-censored due to fear of legal or reputational risk. Selective enforcement. Dissent, satire, and marginalized voices are more likely targets. Enforcement rarely hits powerful or state speech. Institutional backdoors. Rather than passing blunt laws, the state can influence platforms, local bodies, and institutions to curtail dissent. Suppression of documentation. Censoring or blocking footage of protests itself narrows the record and accountability. There's also the massive risk of a slippery slope. Each new measure becomes normalized, shifting the Overton window of permissible dissent. So why does this matter? Because controlling speech is about controlling the voices behind that speech, the narratives behind those voices, and the power behind those narratives. Dissent and political accountability, protests, criticism, satire, whistleblowing, all are vulnerable if speech bounds shrink. Marginalized voices, minority or controversial views are most easily silenced under vague rules. The press and investigative journalism. If platforms or authorities restrict reportage, accountability erodes. And the open public sphere. Societies thrive or decline on the clash of ideas, even offensive ones. Here's what to watch for in the near future as free speech comes under fire in the UK. More legal challenges and court rulings. Will courts curb vague powers or limit overreach at all? Broader and broader interpretations of the Online Safety Act. In borderline cases, will platforms lean to removal to avoid penalties? More civil society resistance. Campaigns, litigation, protest movements will start pushing back. A broader university implementation. Whether free speech duties at universities proved meaningful or symbolic is still in question. And platform behavior. Whether social networks preemptively censor to avoid risk. The UK is not yet a closed society, but the levers of speech suppression are slowly being strengthened. Laws, enforcement, platform incentives, institutional norms. What we are witnessing is a gradual shift from free speech as a foundational right to something conditional, regulated, and constrained. In 2025, the question is not whether regulation is needed, but how to ensure it is narrow, transparent, minimally invasive, and accountable, not a cover for silencing dissent. As you watch the world, ask, what speech is allowed? Who defines that speech? And what voices are being pushed out of the public square? Thank you for watching.